a golden lily on a field of azure, three stylized petals that look like a weapon and a prayer at once. The Bourbon lily is one of the most replicated symbols in European history. You find it on the palaces of Naples, on the facades of Madrid, in the stained glass of Versailles, on the altars of Palermo. You find the lily carved in stone, embroidered in silk, cast in the iron of gates. One family left its signature across half a continent, and that signature is still legible: the Bourbons. The name comes from Bourbon-l'Archambault, a village in the heart of France in the Auvergne region, a place nobody knows today. From there, however, emerged one of the most long-lived, most widely branched, and most influential ruling dynasties that the history of the Western world has ever produced. Direct descendants of the Capetians, who in turn traced their line back to Hugh Capet, crowned King of France in 987. The thread stretches back more than 1,000 years, and it still holds. When I began gathering material for the book I am currently writing, the Bourbons asserted themselves immediately, because they are a total story. Theology and politics, blood and marriage, war and ceremony, all of it together across centuries. To understand the Bourbons, one must understand a single thing. For them, power was a liturgy. Louis XIV woke in front of his courtiers. The lever du roi, the rising of the king, was a public spectacle. To enter the king's bedchamber meant to be somebody. To hold the king's shirt while he dressed was a privilege. At Versailles, every gesture of the monarch was codified, anticipated, remarked upon. The king ate in public. The king prayed in public. The king died in public. This was Bourbon power at its highest, a theater without a curtain, where the sanctity of the crown was displayed every day through the king's body. The king's body was the state, and the state was the king's body. Louis XIV said it plainly. In that phrase, history has stopped repeating, but which remains true: the state is myself. The machine of Versailles covered 200,000 square meters of palace and gardens. 20,000 people work there. Staggering sums to build it, in an age when a laborer earned a few coins a day. The numbers impress. But what impresses still more is the idea beneath them: architecture as propaganda, beauty as an act of government. The Bourbons sat upon 6 different thrones: France, Spain, Naples, Sicily, Parma, Luxembourg. No other modern dynasty distributed its blood across so many kingdoms simultaneously. They were related to almost every ruling house in Europe. Marriages were treated as military alliances. A daughter given in marriage was a territory conquered without firing a shot. Charles III of Spain, who before ascending to Madrid had been king of the 2 Sicilies as Charles VII, is considered one of the most enlightened monarchs of 18th century Europe. A reformer, intellectually curious, capable. He left Naples the Teatro San Carlo, the Palace of Caserta, the National Archaeological Museum. He left Madrid the Royal Palace and the Prado. One king, 2 capitals transformed. Ferdinand I of the 2 Sicilies, his son, was his father's opposite. Stocky, practical, unrefined in his manners, adored by the Neapolitan people precisely for that reason. They called him King Big Nose, a fond nickname. He had a large nose and a plain character. He loved hunting, the sea, the table. He reigned for 66 years, passing through revolutions and restorations, losing his throne and reclaiming it, dying in his own bed at nearly 74 years of age. Longevity as a form of resistance. The Italian branch of the Bourbons has a history that still divides opinion. The south of Italy before unification was the kingdom of the 2 Sicilies. Naples was, by population and wealth, one of the foremost cities in Europe. It had more inhabitants than Milan and Turin combined. It had industry, a military fleet, a road network. It had the first railway on the Italian peninsula, inaugurated in 1839, connecting Naples to Portici. 7 kilometers of track, before Turin, before Milan, before Rome. This fact is repeated often, but it deserves to be stated every time, because it contradicts the dominant narrative. The South is backward, the South is a problem, and yet the first train in Italy departed from Naples, and the locomotive was paid for by the Bourbons. Francis II, the last king of the two Sicilies, abdicated in 1861. He was 26 years old. He held out at Gaeta for months, besieged, with few men and little artillery, while the world watched him lose. His wife, Maria Sophia of Bavaria, sister of the celebrated Sissi, loaded the cannons herself. A queen loading cannons. The image is precise, documented, true. History forgets it because victors write the books, but the facts remain. Today, the Bourbons still reign in Spain. Felipe VI has been on the throne since 2014, when his father Juan Carlos I abdicated after nearly 40 years of rule. Felipe is the 44th king of Spain in the Bourbon Spanish line. A constitutional, parliamentary modern monarchy, but a monarchy nonetheless. The lily is still there, even in the forms of contemporary diplomacy. Juan Carlos I had steered Spain back to democracy after Franco, a king who dismantles absolute power and delivers it to Parliament. A rare gesture, almost paradoxical. But the Bourbons have always worn this double face, the absolutism of Louis XIV and the transition of Juan Carlos I, the maximum concentration of power and its voluntary release. The same dynasty, 3 centuries apart, at 2 opposite extremes. Bourbon blood flows today through other scattered branches as well. The Bourbon Parmas remain an established house. The Bourbons of the two Sicilies continue to assert their legitimacy and maintain their association. Carlo di Bourbon Due Siciliae, Duke of Castro, carries the title forward. These are families who live, who meet, who have children. The line continues. A family that endures 1,000 years teaches something. It teaches that continuity is a form of intelligence, that ceremony serves a purpose, that a name, a symbol, a gesture repeated across generations builds something no revolution can entirely demolish. Louis XVI was guillotined on the 21st of January, 1793. The crowd roared, the head fell into the basket. It seemed the end of everything. 22 years later, Louis XVIII was re-entering Paris in the royal carriage. The lily returned to the flags. The Bourbons returned to the throne. The revolution had changed the world, but the name was still there. That is the secret, the name that holds, the symbol that returns, the lily that never entirely fades, even when it appears extinguished. The Bourbons have lost thrones, wars, capitals, heads. They have lost almost everything, but they are still here. Felipe VI signs decrees in Madrid. The Dukes of Parma attend state ceremonies. In Naples, some speak of restoration as something possible, not as a dream. The lily, golden, on a field of azure, still there, as at the beginning, as always.